Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You guys got room for one more? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
He's saying I'm good now, Jade. I'm good now. Yo. Welcome to Count the Dings After Dark live on YouTube.com via the Count the Dings Patreon.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Gentlemen, this is Ike, aka Ike Tours, from the
Thursday.
Tuesday,
Wednesday, Thursday.
A couple of questions, but the main one I'm gonna go with. I hope you guys can take this on the air. Is just how ridiculous Durant has been. It's been Snake Man 35 weeks here for me. You know, the beauty of the fact that Oklahoma City haven't won a playoff game in 3 years since Kevin Durant left. Durant has been putting up monster numbers in the playoffs, yet no one is talking about it. He's averaging something like 28 points per game on obscene, 70% true shooting. I mean, why aren't we giving Snake Man 35 more love here on the show? Can we get that? That's all I need. And I had a couple of questions. I gotta go back to work. I would love to hear this on the air. Take care.
like a candle in the darkness, baby. Your love is a light. With you, time passes quickly until it's time to part. And then sometimes it feels like forever.
I'm ready to
Killing
rock
me.
and roll.
Just let me know when
Alright,
they can see us. Have they been able to
sound
see us the
check
whole
me.
time?
No,
I have
no.
no idea.
No.
We're
I'm
live,
on the
baby.
YouTube link right now.
Go ahead, Waz.
Yo, mic check. Can y'all hear me out there? Chat, let me know if you can hear me. Mic check. They saying they can hear me. I know you guys was anticipating this, man. You know, it wouldn't be a Jade Hoy production without some theatrics and some dramatics, y'all. But mic check. Oh my goodness. We already breaking live records tonight.
Look at all those responses.
They
How many
saying
of them
my
are
sound
there?
is flawless, Jade. They saying I sound incredible.
I don't know about that. I don't
Oh
think so.
my goodness. Check my levels, y'all.
Never has a New York accent sounded so mellifluous.
I mean,
Yeah.
come on now. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest edition of Count the Dings Live. My goodness, presented by theathletic.com, man. Shouts to The Athletic for partnering up with us right now. Ethan, you're not on camera yet. We're just waiting for you to introduce you and bring you in.
Okay.
But hey, man, I want to welcome everybody to this special edition, man. We're doing the Victory Machine book release party We got a bunch of special guests. Of course, as always, joining me are the first ladies at Count the Dings, Claire DeLune and Sarah the pharmacist. What's up, ladies?
What's up,
We're about to
guys?
bring, of course, we're about to bring Ethan in shortly. But again, I just want to give a shout out to the Athletic, man, because, you know, they've been giving us the space to rip and run and try to do creative things and new types of content for our fans and the people that love us. They told us, man, we don't even need to do the paywall tonight. We can just go crazy with Ethan, one of the easily the brightest stars at theathletic.com on the NBA side, if not the whole damn website. So we just wanted to do something cool. We got some dope guests, people who've been rocking with Ethan for shit, man, a decade now, really. And we got everybody coming through. And so, man, I just want to introduce the king of the night, man, the man himself, Ethan Strauss. Welcome to the show, Ethan.
It's wonderful to be here. You guys are so nice. And yes, thank you to the Athletic as well, right there, the Athletic. Got a little bit of this.
Such
maybe
a corporate show. Put that book back up, Ethan. Put that book back up.
Okay. I was gonna break out the champagne. I was gonna subject myself to the humiliation of trying to open this thing to celebrate, sort of a bon voyage.
Please do.
Oh my God.
I would love to see that.
This is
Just don't fire the cork at your toddler. That would be my only piece of advice.
It's good for him, It's like he's got to learn. Okay. Oh.
Hey, look at that.
There we go.
Oh my
It's
God.
a celebration.
Okay.
I didn't want to go Dave Chappelle here. This is a family show tonight.
Hey, it's not drinking alone if we're doing a live show. It's plus Allie deserves one as well.
The reality is, I watch.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
All right, man. So let's do a cheers. Let's do a toast, man, to the victory lap finally coming out. I know how hard you worked this. This was obviously years in the making. I'm only 25% through because I read at a remedial level. But so far, it's been an incredible page turner. I'm impressed. I'm proud of you, boy. Congratulations, man.
Ethan, cheers.
If this wasn't such lean times, we probably would have been at a strip club tonight, going crazy, throwing ones. But as it stands,
with my son, it's just obvious. It would have been a wild time.
Again, it's good for him, builds character.
So man, so how does today feel, man? It's been, like I said, it's been such a long time in the making. Like I remember when you first started about sort of writing notes and like, yo, I think I'm going to write a book about this damn team. And this was, I feel like 16. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I started thinking about it back then, but it took a while for it to be something that I thought, oh, we got Tom over here.
Stop ruining the surprises. We're bringing these people in. We're going to bring Tom in.
Oh, shit.
He's not on YouTube yet.
My bad.
Him on your Skype screen, but don't stop ruining the surprise for the people watching at home.
I'm sorry, Wallace. I'm sorry. I'll shut up now.
People watching at home, Tom Habit Show's about to be on very shortly with a couple of other amazing guests. Go ahead, Ethan.
This book was so long in the making that I have a part of it where I talk about how little kids become an accoutrement in press conferences for the NBA players, and that I couldn't possibly understand it as a parent because it just seems like a lot to manage. But from the time I wrote that to right now, I've become one of these people. Apparently, I'm just using my son as a prop currently. So just to show you, it was a very long journey to hypocrisy. So you can say hi.
Hi, Asher.
Hi.
Hi.
There he goes. So. It was a long time in the making, and it's a weird thing because you write it and then there are all these months and then it comes out. And so you asked me how I felt today. I feel good. It's like a release. It's similar to an article. 1 second. Maybe I should have trusted my first instincts on how difficult this would be. But yeah, in short, it feels good. It feels liberating. And what's strange is I see people debating aspects of it, and I don't know if it'll be like this every day, but I just don't care. I just don't care. I don't. You write it, you hope people are entertained by it. Everything else is for everybody else. And maybe the book was all a journey of trying to get to that place. So, yeah.
Man,
Amen.
so so well said, man. So well said. I'm not sure KD would have described the book and its process that eloquently, but hey, man,
He might be there. Maybe that's where he got on this particular journey of his, right? I don't know. He's out there. He's out there on that East Coast. I certainly hope he's there. I certainly hope he's made that journey.
All right, without further ado, I'm bringing on the Hoop Speak Live legend, man. One of the greatest writers, statisticians of all time. Handsome Tom Haberstroh is in the building, man. What's up, Tommy boy?
What up, Tom?
That's an old callback right there.
Oh, can't hear Tom.
Hey, we don't need it's handsome Tom Haberstroh. It's a pretty boy. It's all about the looks, you know? I don't need sound. I don't know. I just turned Italian. I started pinching his cheek.
Oh, Tom is taking a sip. Is that Kentucky bourbon? Tom, we can't hear you.
Do we lose him? Did we lose
Tommy, we can't hear you, my brother. Do you have your mic on?
Tom's sound is quarantine.
You said 1 minute.
Oh, okay.
You said 1 minute, Tom. Tom left. He'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
There we go. There we go. All right, while Tom is fixing his audio issues, we want to bring in another planned guest for the night. Another Hoop Speak Live legend, Beckley Mason of Bleacher Report. What's up? Welcome to the live. Welcome to the party,
man.
Beckley.
What up?
What an honor. What an honor. I felt a little excluded for a while, but it feels like I'm coming home, being popped back into a Jade Hoy production with some shenanigans early on. He's vaping in the background. Let's get it going.
Hey.
Beckley, who has made the journey to just professional person all around from having been a writer. Beckley, do you think, looking at the social media and how crazy it makes people, are you glad that you made that journey, or do you miss being in this particular crazy trivial mix that we're all in?
I used to get like the itches during the playoffs because it was like I needed that feedback. Let me tell you, when I met Ethan, I thought he was like the biggest deal in the world because I was just starting writing. I got put in touch with him. He had 230 Twitter followers, which to me was like, oh my God, I have 60 and 50 of them are bots. And like our relationship really broke me into media and definitely I think was a big part of us both getting going 10 years ago. And it's just crazy to see him coming out with this book now that's like such a culmination of Ethan has been like so deep in the Warriors for so long, like before it was cool, before they were any good, when like it was, strictly Monte and like what's going to be the 9th pick that isn't going to turn out, and where is like Anthony Randolph in the pantheon of most important people in my life.
I definitely wrote some
Epe
Udo.
Stuck with it.
I was writing about Epe Udo very much in depth, to the point where Udo likes me quite a bit because I was one of the few people to talk about him. And so
I needed to stop being a writer. I was like, I see how much energy and time Ethan can put into this minutia that like no one should care about. And he's so good at caring about it and then making other people care about it. I was like, I got to get out of here and see if I can make some money somewhere else.
Nobody should care. Hey, I think this is awesome. I mean, I can't wait to see all our guests. I do want to have some topics that we can discuss. I don't want it to be all about me because I'm already blushing. It's not just
mission accomplished.
Ethan, what Beckley just described, I have an older cousin who used to be a DJ, right? And he said Kid Capri came to Orlando, Florida, where he was living at the time. And Kid Capri is obviously a legendary hip hop DJ, whatever, goes without saying, but he said he heard Kid Capri DJ and he literally quit DJing the next day. Come on. I will never be that good. That's what Beckley Mason just said about you, brother.
It's not true. It's not true. But it's a very nice sentiment. It's a very nice This is great. I feel like I've had 2 faux funerals. I had the one where I got fired and people
But
said
you were
nice
still
things.
getting paid.
Yeah, I keep nice things about myself as though I was dead, and I feel like this is that. Only I get to interact with it, so it's nice. It's okay.
Hey, I'm back.
Nice.
All right, Tom Haberstroh has joined.
Sorry about that.
Let's bring Tom Haberstroh into the chat. Handsome Tom is back, man.
Hey.
This is 3/4 of Hoop Speak Live in the building right now, man. Did you ever think you would see the day, Tom?
Man, I am so happy to be here with Ethan and also Sexy Beckley. What's up, my man? This is crazy.
Yeah, that's we talked about that. We weren't going to do that today.
Too late.
So I remember going down memory lane real quick. I was sitting in Kevin Arnovitz's apartment in downtown Miami back in 2010, and he goes, "Hey, I got to take this call. There are these 2 guys. Their names are what is it? Beckley Mason and Ethan Strauss. I think they're going to be the future of NBA media." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like talking up. I forget what blog you guys had back in the day. You guys used to write.
Oh, what was the thing that we would do back and forth? What was that called?
Hey, I'm gonna go get my wire, so I'll give me a second.
Go ahead, Tom and Beckley. Continue with the story. The people couldn't hear what that dude.
Oh, you guys
said.
already live? Jesus.
Yeah, yes, sir. But you're not on. Don't worry. I mean, we got this. We got this down pat. You're not on. You're just on the call. Go ahead, Tom and Beckley.
Yeah. So Beckley, what was it called?
God, this is really embarrassing. Yeah, we did. It was basically like a dialogue that we would do, and we would take on, sort of like insane perspectives. And we had this guy who would do photoshops for us of like Paul Krugman as Cthulhu, like illustrate some outlandish metaphor that Ethan had. And those were the good old days of the internet when like it wasn't all flattened out by social media. And you could be weird and people could find you.
The internet was a super weird place back then, and it seems to have been denuded of that. I think probably because Facebook is the internet and people don't visit individual websites anymore. I think that accounts for a lot of the difference is that people they would go to a website. Now there are only a few websites that are destinations.
But also think about how much work we would do like designing every one of those posts and like how you read them and how the images showed up, and that was like completely idiosyncratic to us, whereas now it's like you just it just
Beckley, you were a web designer too?
Very, very amateur, like picking colors, and, it was good enough. WordPress was
I mean, Beckley was great though. Beckley had a great business sense. He had a great vision, and I owe whatever it is I do, I think, in large part to Beckley getting it going back then. It's just true.
So wholesome.
That's true. How did you guys meet? Like, how did you internet meet?
A mutual friend I went to high school with, and I think he went to college with some of your friends, or you were all in the Bay Area. How did you guys know Ben?
This will be boring to people, but he's like the Zelig of my life, where he has 5 points of connection to just different people, and so yeah, it was through him, through Beckley's Seattle friend, and that's how it was. Just, hey, I've got this friend of mine. I didn't know what to expect, and like, oh, you like sports? He likes sports. You both like sports.
Basically, we were set up on a blind sports date, and the rest is history.
For cute.
Yeah. Hey, Ethan, you used the word denuded. Is that what you just used a few seconds ago?
I did. Okay. But I was they were saying cute, which I've heard Minnesota people say, and I didn't know that they actually said it. So that's
embarrassing. Yeah, we do say it. I'm sorry.
Did your editor?
I lived in Minneapolis.
Did your editor in this book make you take out all those words, Ethan? Because I've been reading it, and I'm not seeing the dangling gerunds. I'm not seeing some of those insane adjectives.
There are some good ones in there, but I don't know if I was trying to do a triple axle 360 show off. Maybe that's for the next book. We'll have to just see about it. But I've tried to pare it down a little bit as time goes on. I don't want to become a caricature of myself, much as it happened.
Ethan, you said you had topics you wanted to bring up during the different segments with the different group of guests because you don't want us to just shower praise and call you the greatest
It's
of
funny.
all time.
Are other people like this where they would like that, but they just don't want to be present for it? You know?
Yes. No, 100.
That's so good. He's like, no, I want everyone to loud me with praise at all times. I just want to have my face be on camera as it happens.
And
Well, if you read the
that-
book, if you read the
Before
book,
you do
know
that, though, before you do the topic, please bring Amin El Hassan into this chat. We need to bring the greatest hater of all time.
Amin and I hated each other at the very beginning. Is the
You and Amin had a
Really?
beef to start?
What?
Drama.
He was who he was on
Do tell.
Twitter, and he would roast you, and that was his thing. And
Wait, he
create
roasted you at one point?
Well, it would create problems because I think I said something that maybe was in opposition to something Zach Lowe had written, and I didn't even know it. And Amin would do stuff where he would at Zach and go, "Oh, he's going at you, Zach." And I'm just,
That's so bad.
I can't have this in my life. He's created issues. I have to email Zach Lowe, who is a pretty big deal, and say, no, I wasn't saying that. You know, don't listen to this crazy man. Amin, don't listen to him. So he got off to a bad start.
He blocked me.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
and we
Ethan
reciprocate-
blocked you?
Yeah, and we reciprocate.
Wow.
Hold on, Amin, hold on. Was this Amin the Dream era? He blocked you, or was
No. That was after I switched. After I what was it called at the time? I don't remember what the name of it was, but yeah, I mean, it might have been Amin ESPN, but whatever. Yeah, that's what he blocked.
Yeah, it wasn't. I just remember
it was not.
Drama.
Spoiled Henry Abbott, and Henry said, so he kind of gave me the details on who Amin was and said, he's a really cool guy, he's really smart, and he's really mad that you blocked him. And I was like, okay, I should unblock Amin.
Because
Wow.
I always I find out that I get blocked after sometimes weeks later, because someone would have happened to something along the lines of someone will send me, oh man, you got to check out this tweet. And then it won't show up. I'm like, oh shit, I got blocked? Really? And usually I can remember a specific event, but in that case, I didn't recall. So I was just I don't know why he's blocked me. So that kind of, I want to earn the foul call,
Yeah. Well, it was the Zach Lowe thing, whatever it was, and I can't even remember what it was. Guys, it's a really long time ago. But yeah, from there we got off on a wrong foot, and we've just been on that wrong foot ever since. But
And here we are today.
El Hassan coming to you live.
Ethan, hit us with your topic number one, man. You said you had topic.
So sometimes when you write something, you don't know what other people are going to take from it. You're a little too lost in it. I read an article today in the SF Weekly that was titled something to the effect of Twitter ruined the Warrior Dynasty. So that premise seems kind of crazy. I don't know if I was setting out to prove that, but I want to put that out to you and to the audience. Did Twitter ruin the Warriors dynasty?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I think
we already know that
insane.
KD is obsessed with social, and a lot of his decisions are based off of what people are saying about him on social. So it's absolutely played a role in him being like, you know what, these people want to give all the glory to Steph anyway, so screw him, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Waz, I disagree. Do you think he's obsessed with social, or do you think he's obsessed with what people think about him?
Yes, the second one.
What people think about him.
Okay, but
Twitter's a view of that.
social exacerbates that issue, is what I'm saying. For sure, I agree with you, Tom. You're right about that. But he said he's like, I'm sensitive. So what? I remember when he said that, and I was like, oh, okay, it's cool. But it's obvious that he's immersed in the online conversation in a very unhealthy way, and it affected how he felt about his teammates. It affected how he felt about, the entire endeavor, right? He had this one idea going into it, I'm gonna get a bunch of rings, I'm gonna be better than LeBron, I'm gonna get all the girls and the glory, and it just kind of didn't happen for him that way.
Why are you guys dancing around this? It's Andy Liu that broke it up. Why are you guys social? You guys are using all these euphemisms. It's Andy Liu.
Randos on Twitter. He's not a rando. He is.
part of me is joking around, and part of me is serious because Ethan, as you detailed, I'm about like maybe 2/3 through the book, but as you detailed many a time, Durant himself has admitted, he's incredibly in tune with what people say about him.
Yeah.
Like he reads everything, he listens to everything, and he boasts about it, not realizing that actually comes across as a lot more concerning than it does. Like all knowing. You don't come across as all knowing. You come across as like you listen. Really, you're listening to Andy Liu?
Well, I mean, there's a moment in the Kevin and Me chapter for those who have not read it yet.
That was the best chapter.
There's a moment in the Kevin and Me chapter where I think Ethan gets a little bit of empathy with KD when he's in the take zone.
The take zone.
The take zone is when he's like in this space, this world where you can't escape people talking about you. And I thought that was kind of an interesting moment in the story where Ethan, I feel like you were extending an olive branch to KD. Like, now I get it. Now I get why it's hard to shut out the noise.
I mean, how are these guys not more insane was what I took away from it. It's not emotionally healthy to watch people on television debating whether you're good at your job or not. That's just, I don't think that we're fundamentally designed to really deal with that and absorb that as human beings. And it's one of those things where you can, in theory, go, oh, just turn the TV off. Oh, just don't let it bother you. And maybe there are some people who build up calluses to it, but I think it's pretty normal for that to be a road to madness for celebrities. And you see it. I mean, I saw the Taylor Swift documentary, and you're just watching somebody go insane from the modern social media panopticon. So I don't think he deals with it well. I'm not trying to make excuses.
One of the words that I wrote down that you had in that chapter. Here's another one. Esprit de corps. Is that?
Yeah. He goes to that one a lot.
I do like that one.
Royce Young elided. I don't know if I've heard.
I had to look that one up. That was the only one I literally like in the context. I couldn't. Does he like? Is that regret? Is that like?
So I had those three phrases in there. I had to look up: panopticon, elided, and esprit de corps.
That's a good one for our modern era. It's a prison where you can't see the guards, but the guards can see you. And it evokes the feeling of being surrounded. But yeah, I just think it's. I'm not trying to make
2 words for you. N-word what?
It's funny. I was talking to Zach Harper on our radio show this morning, and I mentioned the book, and I said I read like the intro, and I thought to myself, does Ethan not want people to read this book? Because the intro is like you use so many, $20 words when a $2 word would do. So times in the intro. Like it was almost like beware of dog, or like
beware of nerd.
Portraits of the really high wall. Like you didn't want people to even try scaling this.
You know what that is? Like the intro is the chapter that you pitch to the publisher almost. Like that's kind of the opening document. And that has to be the most authorly. So that's the one I'm writing with my pipe and my beret and whatever. and then when you start writing the book, it's like, okay, I'm writing the book.
Also,
you gotta...
this is another reason why you give the book to me first to read before you send it off. You spelled Isaiah Thomas wrong.
Oh God! Well, come.
It's not little Isaiah Thomas, but
oh, God. Let's kill me. Well, in the future edition.
I mean, did you pull a me with Tim Kirkton?
I did, except I love Ethan.
Amin has a future in copy editing, but yeah, to get back to what Tom was saying, I did develop empathy, but that's also not the same thing as saying somebody's dealing with something well. It's just, look, if what we want is to have more sympathy for celebrities of all people. I mean, they theoretically have it pretty good, but I almost feel as though an experiment is being performed on their brains that maybe they're the canaries in the coal mine, where we are really making more and more of our lives social media, and they're dealing with it on a scaled up version. And maybe they're just a warning that if we keep doing this, we'll get as crazy as they are. I guess that's what I'm saying.
But it's a choice. It's not even a choice. He's not peerless in this. And that there are are other peers of his in this league who don't handle it like he did or like he does.
But isn't the issue that KD just didn't want to be in on a team where he wasn't the golden boy, and no amount of social media whatever was going to change the fact that Steph is the man of that team, and as much as they could try to move the organization around and change the offense to get KD his shots, it was just social media calling attention to a dynamic that I don't think KD was ever going to just live with for 7 years.
So in college, I took a class called Human Sexuality.
Oh, yeah.
Tight.
And one of the fascinating things that I learned in that class is that the thing that you are very initially most attracted to. Yeah.
Jesus.
This is a long walk to get wherever Tom's going. It's a long
hold on. Time. Before you get into your human anatomy discussion, just wait. Wait, no, we're gonna get back into it.
Okay.
It's great
Beckley Mason, I want to thank you for coming on, man. We appreciate your time. I know this meant a lot to Ethan.
Thanks, Beckley.
Thanks, guys. Love you, Ethan. Congratulations.
Take care, brother.
Basketball? I thought Beckley moved on to greater endeavors in life that have nothing to do with
lurking. I'm always lurking.
All right, Beckley Mason, get that fool out of here, man. Get the hell out of here. Old American Psycho looking ass. Get out of here.
Such a hospital host, Wozni, as always.
You guys really ripped off the entire format, huh?
No, nothing. I mean, nothing is original here. No idea under the sun is a new one. I mean, you know that. Come on.
The Tom tease is still burning,
Tom, please continue with the human sexuality course in college.
So there was
that wasn't happening in your dorm room.
There's a lecture. They did a study. Yeah. I'm married to that woman, Waz.
I like the
professor
singular there. I like the singular usage there, Thomas.
What are you talking about, dude?
It is 7:35 p.m. Get it together.
Anyway, so they did a study and they found out that the thing that people are most attracted to in other people when they go into a relationship is the number one reason why they break up with them in the end. So you're attracted to some quality about them that brings you to them. And then after a while, you realize, hey, I didn't actually want that in the first place. It was just this apple on the tree a temptation. And then once I tasted it, I was like, I'm good. So I think about that with KD and Steph and the idea of I'm attracted to the fact that I'm not going to be the man and I don't have to answer to everything. And it's an egalitarian offense. And that's the way that you should play basketball. And I think after a while, he realized, man, I don't like having to have everyone all about Steph.
Yeah.
I didn't know that's what it's going to be like. So I think that's kind of the lesson here is from the human sexuality class in Winter, North Carolina, is I think the thing that he was most attracted to about the Warriors is also the thing that drove him apart.
You know what? You know what shocked me, Ethan, that you had in there. I don't think we've ever talked about it, because a lot of the stuff in the book we talked about, but the idea that for instance, Tom, what you just said, that what attracted them was what brought them together, what ultimately drove them apart. But if you talk about Steph Curry in the book, knowing that he would be giving up market share, beyond just sharing the basketball, he was essentially maybe taking a hit to the brand.
Killed Under Armour.
But we all talked about it in the form of sacrifice. He sacrificed for winning and whatever. And in there, you alluded to somebody said maybe that's what he wanted. He didn't want to be a brand anymore. He didn't want that life. He was like, oh, you got a taste of it. And he's like, this is crazy. Have someone else be the piñata, and I'm happy to win rings and just be a regular great player as opposed to bigger than life.
Well, Michael Jordan said, man, I wish I put that in the book, something to the effect of, you'd want to be me for a day, you'd want to be me for a week, you wouldn't want to be me for a year. And I think there's something to that, where Steph did get to a level that we're almost forgetting about, or a lot of people are acting it was some sort of lie. But I remember Ralph Walker, Steph's security bodyguard, great guy, said at some point, I'm looking out for 1985 Michael Jackson right now.
Great quote.
He didn't mean that way. But yeah. In terms of fame, folks. In terms of fame, Ralph wasn't. Ralph wasn't like winking Morse code at me or anything.
Yes,
like,
sir.
in
Yes,
terms of
sir.
fame, But
Until Steph builds a ranch, and then we might have to revisit that quote. He knew.
But that he was at a level where the spotlight was burning bright, where I remember he did this sort of golf thing that I went to, and right before that, these crazy people were following him for I don't even know 90 miles, and he just
30
couldn't
miles
live his.
in the book is at 30 miles.
Oh my God, Amin, you stickler! It's
Copy
incredible.
editor Amin,
This guy.
wow.
Who knew? I knew Amin had many talents. I did not know this was one of them. This is okay. Well, I think that it got to a level for Steph where taking the edge off of it seemed appealing to him, I guess is what I'm saying. And that's unusual because I don't think LeBron would have ever felt that way. But with Steph, none of this was ever promised. None of this was ever part of the plan.
What does esprit de corps mean?
The spirit of the group.
Why couldn't you just say that?
Okay, yeah.
That's French.
Because it's a phrase. It's a phrase. It sounds good,
No.
C'est si bon, I probably have there's probably some French person on watching this who thinks that was a butchering of the language, and they are right. They are absolutely correct about that. I took high school French. I cannot speak
Wait, could
French.
you say it again for me, please, Ethan, so I can critique you? I'm
Uh,
Haitian,
c'est-
so I could do it, right?
C'est si bon.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Ethan, I wanted to congratulate you. I haven't done it yet, so congratulations on the launch of your book. I admire you, your work ethic, the book that I think I should have written when I was in Miami and the rise and fall of the Miami dynasty. But I was too young. I realized I was too young. It was my first locker room I've ever been in, and I felt like I was just trying to learn the ropes. Maybe that would have been a good book. But you hit on so many things about what makes the NBA the NBA. And I know this is a book about the Warriors dynasty, but it really is a book about the NBA. And I think the intro that Amin was hitting you on about a few seconds ago, I actually really liked it because you're opening up this world of the NBA that most people, unlike Amin, they don't know about.
What I love.
So
sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. I just wanted to say that what I love. Well, thank you first of all. Secondly, what I love about Amin is that he's a basketball ops man through and through, and he's never gonna you can take the whatever that phrase is that I'm now too buzzed to recite, that you can take the man out of basketball ops, but you can't take the basketball ops out of the man. I remember Amin just recently on Twitter reading the book and saying, "Who wants input from their owner? Who wants that?"
I did that in the chat, in the group chat. I didn't do
Yes,
that.
it was the group chat. It was the group chat. And you know what's funny, when I read that, I read it because I tend to think of things through stuff that Amin has said about basketball ops, right? And I'm like, that sounds weird that you would want your own. I think if it sounded like they wanted the owner to take responsibility for shit that fucked up too. That's what it sounded like to me. Which
Never.
That's not gonna happen.
First of all, they'll never do it. It's like a certain who's in charge of what. Like you can have him on tape saying it, and then he'll deny. I never said that. You said it on tape in front of millions of people. So it's like the idea that somehow there's a shared responsibility there. No, we always wanted our owner look, cut the check and get out of the way.
I mean, I was talking to somebody who worked for Robert Sarver, who wasn't you, who was saying he was telling me about some terrible move that Sarver convinced and demanded that this guy do, and then after it blew up, Sarver said, "Why did you do that?"
Wow.
That's how it goes.
He told you that story, huh?
Wait, you said Steve Kerr told you that story?
Kurt Thomas, 2 first-round picks.
It wasn't Steve. It wasn't Steve. But I'm not. If you keep playing the game of saying who it wasn't, then it gets.
But is that the transaction? Kurt Thomas and 2 first-round picks?
No.
Okay.
I'll tell you what it was later.
Okay.
I think I know who it is. I think I know who it is. Is it the same guy who's? No, I'm just gonna leave it. Yeah.
He might have the same hairstyle as Tom Haberstroh. I
Oh,
don't know.
Lazzie's getting messy.
I'm not.
Hey, it's fine. It's fine. Waz will have to come home soon. Yeah.
I will, Tom. The way things are going, Tom, it will be in no time.
I know why you're wearing the hat, bro.
Yes, shots fired. I love it.
So
I gotta go, but hey,
Oh,
much love to you, Ethan, and the family, and congratulations. Love you all, and I hate you all on the West Coast. Come on, it's terrible.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Tom.
Bye, Tom.
Say that again,
Tom finished the book was my question, but he had already hung up.
I have no idea.
Yep. Okay.
The next topic.
Yes.
We established that Twitter ruined the Warriors dynasty. Did Twitter ruin the NBA and NBA coverage? I mean, I think you, as perhaps the most famous and accomplished NBA pundit, I think this is the one for you to answer. Did Twitter give the NBA and NBA media Twitter brain and screw up what we should be promoting, or is this what people are into and it's not so?
Somewhere in the middle. I think there are things that are real that Twitter shines a light on. The Twitter is a megaphone. It's a megaphone, right? If you say the right things out of it, they'll get loud and we'll hear the right things louder. If you say the wrong things out of it, it'll still be wrong, but we'll hear the wrong things louder. And I think the problem is Twitter didn't ruin it, but media outlets at least need to do a better job of discerning what is interesting on Twitter versus what is interesting, right? Nick Young being afraid of dolphins is interesting on Twitter, but that's not interesting. And when we make decisions, basically we make opportunity cost decisions of saying we're going to talk about this because this was big on Twitter versus stuff that's actually serious and important. I think that's where we lose our way. But again, it's like everything. Like, are guns bad? I mean, like, if you give guns to everybody, you don't discern who should and shouldn't have a gun, then yes, guns are bad. If the right people have a gun, it can be very useful and protective. Fire can heat your house and cook your food and burn down the house too and kill everybody. Like, Twitter is no different from all those things. And I think right now we're just a bunch of people running around with lighters and just like, oh, I wonder if this will catch on fire, without ever trying to think whether it's worth it.
You know what I think about when you bring that question up? Relax. We're bringing these people on slowly but surely, Ethan. You know what I think about when you bring up that question? I think about our friend Sam Esfandiari, who I like to describe as a hypercentrist, but he talks all the time about how, like, media guys and their passions, they start to think that the average fan shares those passions. And Joe Sports fan does not share those passions. And, part of me is like, yo, he's right. As much as it pains me, because I'm just a flaming, nasty, disgusting liberal, right? Like, I barely take showers. Like, as much as it pains me as a dirty hippie, like, he's right. Joe Sports fan doesn't want to hear a lot of this shit, man. Like, doesn't want to know about, the athlete empowerment, the empowerment of the black man. They don't want to hear that shit. They just want to watch hoop, man. And I kind of agree with Sam, man, even as it pains me to do so.
It's hard to know. Are we introing one of Northern California's finest? Is that
intro them? You can intro them, Ethan.
They both went away. I don't know how this whole format works. I have no idea.
They might have stepped away for a second. All right, so give it a second. Let them. I'm sure.
Let it be a drum roll. Let them. I mean,
yeah.
One Sam Amick just gave the thumbs up.
Okay,
Sam, are you dialed in?
Is in the building.
I'm dialed in.
And so is Tony Slater. Tony Slater's in the building.
Slater. I just Facebook. Tony Slater's in the building. I just Facebook friended Anthony, who I've known for a while. I didn't even know this dude was on Facebook, because on Facebook he's Tony. Who is this guy?
Can I be heard right now?
Yes, sir, you're live. Sam,
hold on. Yeah, you're
Sam
live.
Amick, Tony Slater of The Athletic, two of the best writers in the biz. Welcome to Count the Dings Live, man.
If you knew me before the age of 20, before I transferred from Sonoma State to Oklahoma State, you knew me as Tony Slater. When I started writing and putting my name in a newspaper, if you met me beyond the age of 20, you think you've never heard of Tony Slater's Anthony. So I actually kind of like that difference. I know if I'm talking to somebody I knew from childhood compared to a dude like Ethan Strauss, who I had to meet in the business.
Oh,
In the
terrible.
biz.
It's not my secret website though, Facebook. I thought I was safe on.
Anthony, you want to know something funny about all of this? Is that I have a nasty habit of giving people my own nicknames for them. Like, for instance, I always call Ethan Eth. Like, I'm always giving
Eth?
people, yeah.
What kind of nickname is that?
I'm always giving people weird nicknames, so
the
I thought
only
I was
one.
being funny by calling you Tony Slater, but it's your real name.
Yeah, no, that's what my family calls me. So.
Wow. It's like, I mean, it's Tony. You don't meet many Tonys. Am I wrong? Am I wrong that you don't meet many Tonys?
No.
I might be feeling this.
Very wrong. You're very wrong.
I know a couple.
Slater a long time. I've known Slater a
Couldn't
long
be
time.
Jones.
This is news to me. Two things. Part of my quarantine content enjoyment lately has been watching movies like Raging Bull and The Irishman. And Slater, like Tony Slater, you sound like you're straight out of a Pacino, De Niro, Joe Pesci movie.
Hey, this guy breaking my balls. Hey.
I can kind of see what you're saying, but it's also just a name I've always known for myself, so I don't in that sense. But
Honestly, look.
Is this a take we're running with that Tony is a name only? How about Tony Durant? How about Tony Jones?
No, man,
How about Tony Dell?
Look,
How about Tony?
Copywriter Amin or copy editor Amin, you are correct, and yes, I was wrong about that. You are right. Amin is almost like if I will get something wrong, he will find it and descend from the heavens. I thought he was off the call and he jumped in, but he's
only
right.
to bust your balls, Ethan. That's his entire purpose.
That Amin is more often correct than he isn't. So you just have to face the music on it sometimes.
I have a question for Sam and Tony. Did you guys get copies of the book beforehand?
No, sir. I did not.
You know what I did get? I did get an email a couple months ago from a publisher that said, "Do you want to interview the star?" If you want to interview him, email here, and we might be able to connect you with him. And I was thinking maybe I could get some type of interview with this star.
I was embarrassed by that, and I did email the publicist, and I just said, could you just change that description? Just I'm getting way too much shit from my colleagues and friends. Could we knock the star off, because that's definitely yeah. But look, I want everybody to get copies. Shelter-in-place order hit New York. The physical copies got delayed, yada, yada, yada. Nobody cares. I wish all of you could have gotten it. It's like a replay of my wedding. I wish more could have been invited. I don't know what happened.
Oh my God. I just wish more black people could have been invited and not just working at the shit. That's all I wish.
Amen. Ethan, I just remembered, given on that topic of getting razzed by us, I never knew, you never told me that after Durant said, "You don't know what makes me happy," that turned into like a refrain, a familiar refrain around you anytime you suggested anything. By the way, you were talking about Marcus Thompson, right? Like I heard Marcus's voice. Sam, haven't you
said that to me? You said that you don't know what makes me happy? Like,
I mean, without sharing too much, you and one of the things we had in common during this whole Warriors coverage thing is, and I got a tiny dose of it compared to you, in terms of the scope and the quantity, and as far as him coming at you. But we all know kind of his style, and that whole concept of you don't know what makes me tick, you don't know what makes me happy. I mean, that was real, and that was. I mean, honestly, I say this half kidding. I mean, I was watching you guys tonight, enjoying the show, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, what are the odds that Kevin is on the stream? And I'm not even kidding. Like that he's
pretty high.
Yeah, 100%. Because that is how he's wired.
He has two buzzwords.
Hold on, Tony and Sam. I just want to introduce you guys to Claire and Sarah. Those are the two first ladies that count the dings. I don't know if you guys have ever met them, whatever, but Sarah happens to be an Oklahoma native. She lives in Tulsa. She's a big Thunder fan. So when you hear her saying slick shit about KD, you know why. It's from a biased place. We just want to clear that up for everybody. But go ahead, Tony. Sorry I interrupted you. My bad.
Well, I have an Oklahoma State shirt on right now because that's where I went. So
you're another Okie.
I'm all about OU though. I'm all about.
Oh, never mind that.
Wow.
I was
Keep doing Pickens rolling over in his grave.
Deep cut.
Kevin has 2 words. KD has 2 words that he hates. Happy is what, when you hear somebody tell him how happy he is or should be, and the other one is sensitive. You use either of those 2 words in writing about him, in a conversation with him, it just sets him off.
It's a trigger. Yeah.
Were you there in Sacramento where
Yes.
he said that? I remember
I was
that.
there
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me and
I remember-
Fidel. Go ahead, Amy.
No, like Ethan, you and I were sitting baseline, and he started rolling up on you, and I kind of faded back, like, all right, these 2 boys got to talk,
Did the Homer Simpson back in the edges.
Oh, for sure. Like we were busting your balls because you didn't give us copies of the book, but then today, when I read the excerpt on Hoops Hype, it was like an out of body experience because I'm like, oh damn, I was there. Yeah, I saw that happen.
So Ethan, that morning, me, you, and Fidel rode the train
I
from
remember that.
the Bay Area up to Sacramento, and on the way up, you were telling us that he's not happy. You had heard he wasn't happy with the story you wrote, and I remember telling you, even if he's not happy, I think he won't do it in public. He might pull you to out of it. And I was very wrong. 45 minutes later, it's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Can we relive that night and the days preceding? Following, because I remember you being like, "Yo, it's kind of crazy to have all of this attention on you, like people tweeting you, emailing you, calling you, texting you afterwards." But like, I want to know the sequence of events.
You're talking
KD
about so the press conference, that whole deal.
Yes, when KD violated you.
He is gonna show up.
Well, Sam was saying, it feels like an out-of-body experience when that happens. Like when you're the news, even the press conference, it just feels like it's happening to somebody else. It just feels it's a moment of life that feels too surreal for it to actually be you, which I think is something we're all going through a little bit right now, where things feel too surreal to be reality. So in the immediate aftermath of that, like I said in the book, it's just crazy. You just get a sense of, oh my God, I can't believe that these guys deal with this. This isn't healthy, because even if you try to shut it out, you can't. You're going to have acquaintances, you're going to have cousins, you're going to have second cousins texting you about it. You can delete Twitter if you want. You can delete Instagram if you want. You're still, if you need to use your phone to talk to your wife or whatever you want to do, you're going to hear about it. And then you realize, oh my God, these guys who have a level of fame that's far beyond what we all have, it's probably not the happiest place to live. It was probably great back in the day, in the 1960s, right? In the 1950s, 70s. I mean, it probably was fine. It's like you had a modicum of privacy, perhaps. But I think right now for the famous people, it sucks. So that's our revenge on them.
You remember the lead up? Oh, go ahead. I
was gonna add. You know who I feel sorriest for?
Who?
The poor guy who has your 510 old phone number. How many phone calls and text messages did that guy get? People asking about Kevin Durant and stuff, and he's like, "I'm not that guy."
Sam called me on that number for a while and thought I was just blowing him off. That old 510 ESPN.
That's right. I take it personal, man. Now you don't give me a book. I know it's personal.
I apologize to everybody, but yeah,
I'm kidding you. I can spend $25, whatever it is.
I gotta say, I'm already nostalgic for this era. I know Slater is too.
Wait, hold on. What?
No, I loved covering the 50 Warriors this season. Thrilling
yeah. It's a great season.
Go ahead. Get at him, please.
Ethan was complaining the whole time the Warriors were good about how he misses how it was when they weren't so good. Access without having to climb over legions of international press.
He was doing a lot of...
Ray Ritter will get back to you like within 5 minutes.
Oh no!
Hold on to me. Remember my favorite? My favorite was when they first signed KD, and Ethan was like, "I'm not even that interested in the KD story. I'm way more interested in Pat McCaw."
Well, that was my first.
Wow.
The Pat McCaw journey, the Pat McCaw biography, but there was nobody buying for that one.
Ethan literally said that in our group text. He said, "I'm more interested in the young guys. I want to know what they're roles are going to be on this new team.
Wow.
I'm more interested in Pat McCaw. I was like, wow. Pat McCaw?
If somebody might accuse me of having a perspective that is not correct at certain times, I cannot deny that, certainly. But it reminds me of how somebody was talking about my book to Andre, and I wish that I had put this in my book. Oh, name drop. But he was asked if it's true that winning doesn't make you happy. He said it is true, but you miss it. And so I think that's that dynamic. I think it's the same for being around winning, where, you know, Anthony and I, like, it got kind of crazy. The story had run out. It was a lot of you're around people who are under a lot of pressure and aren't happy. But then when it goes away, you do miss it. That's also true. I think that's natural.
Grass is always greener.
The nightly stress of it was like, I had a healthier year this year, right? You know, like my off days, I didn't care about the job nearly as much. Like I probably enjoyed my life more, but then I would go to the arena and it would be like, oh, Magic Warriors tonight. 0 humans care about this game. I might stay in the media room for 2 of the quarters tonight. So I think this year, particularly as hard as it smacked us in the face this year, I think we realized what we're missing. But, you know, we're kind of in a constant state of complaint, right? I mean, we complained last year, we complained this year. We're going to complain next year when they're probably
going to complain.
That's just you, Tony. That's just you, Tony. Hey, Waz, I know you're the boss of the show. Can I take over real quick and throw a question to Ethan?
Sam, by all means, please get to it.
No, I'm wondering, like, listen, Ethan, you're a big boy. You can decide what to share, what to not share. But since we're talking about how Kevin interacts and the idea that he, you know, doesn't react all that well to critical coverage, it's one thing to write a column at The Athletic. It's another to write an entire book. And I know the book just launched, but I mean, there's been a lot of noise today, last couple of days, about what you wrote. I mean, are you seeing any of those familiar patterns from his camp and from, you know, I mean, are you getting any of that feedback to this point?
A little bit, but not directly. And I don't know what to expect. You know, look, man, the stuff that's happened recently has given a whole lot of people a whole lot of new perspective. You don't know what people are going to prioritize. So but I haven't heard anything yet.
The Hoop Hype segment excerpt that had, you know, it detailed him going into people's DMs to accuse them of liking Steph more. There's a prominent basketball Twitter media guy who retweeted it and said, "Oh, the Steph stands drove him away." I said, "What? That was your takeaway? You read that and you said, oh, these people and their love for Steph," rather than this dude was out here fighting a proxy war for the affection of fans. Like is that not? But even if like you are, I don't know. Even if you're Rich Kleiman, like, don't you
I agree with you. I think we're talking about Dragonfly Jones, who's hilarious, and I really appreciate him reading the excerpt and reading the book and tweeting it out. But yes, I will say that I am more on your side of that argument. That I more agree with you on that one.
Because here's the thing, like for me, if I'm a Durant, like a Durant camper, I think my argument is he done what he wanted to do in Golden State, and now he wanted a new challenge. And if you just stick to that simple, like, speaking point, you're fine. But like once you get down into the rabbit hole of like trying to defend what is clearly weird behavior, to care about the opinions of literal nobody. It's just one thing to sit and Dragonfly, he explained it, he said, well, he sees it as they're not the same, but they're 2 branches of the same tree, whether it's media saying this stuff or fans saying this stuff. But I'm just like, why is that branch on the tree? I get like being sensitive to what media say. I don't think you should as a superstar player. I would think you would have a lot of experience of not caring what media has to say. But I get it, right? Like, because these are the people who shape the opinions of millions, after all. But the millions themselves, why would you care what those people think? Like, enough to lobby to them and address them. And you know, and one of the things that Dragonfly said was like, well, if the DirecTV guy came in and was talking crazy to me, I'd set him straight too. I'm like, no, you wouldn't. You just like, get the hell out of my house. And you call DirecTV. Yeah, and you call DirecTV and say, send me someone who isn't crazy.
Before we all react to this, I want to bring on another guest, man. You know, I got to bring on my brother, You know what I'm saying? Give him dap on the black hand side. You know what
I
I'm
think that's
saying?
a simple.
What's up, Marcus Thompson? What's good?
I was like, what'd be the funniest name after that? Like Casey Johnson? Like what's
right. Marcus was
Mortimer, huh?
Sean Hiken.
Man, I'm actually a little bit exhausted. Just cleaning up, teaching. Man, I'm ready though. Let's go. What we talking about?
I don't
even. About your book.
Golden.
Well, Marcus is big on this thing. Marcus is big on this thing that if you write a book, it's like becoming a made man. That people treat you differently. That it's all different after today. Which
watch.
I don't like.
People are gonna act like you're good now. Watch.
The big thing that you haven't learned from Marcus. Whenever you do
Deleted laugh track.
Yeah. I haven't even dropped the joke yet. Whenever you do anything, you have to have a copy of the book with you, like at all times. Like Marcus had the book with him at all times. Anytime he made an appearance anywhere, that book was in tow. You got to do the same thing, Ethan.
The best thing Marcus did was he would always drop the name in the playoff press conferences.
Marcus
Ethan doesn't have that chance this year.
No, well, no, I don't have that chance. But like Marcus is just a bold press conference asker. I mean, when you brought up what was it was it Beeline? I'm trying to remember that whole controversy.
Beeline had the thug comment, and he brought it up to Kerr like that night. Like Steve had just got done coaching the game. Like, understandably, hadn't even been informed of the.
Steve had 12 wins. Talking about he didn't know what it was. Yeah, you were listening. You were following.
Well,
Not like you were game planning
I
for
think
24
it dropped.
loss.
I think it dropped while he was in the second quarter of the game, and then you asked him in the post game presser.
Marcus turned to me in the press conference and he says, Should I ask him about the whole slugs thugs thing? Should I do it with this little sort of mischievous glint in his eye? And I said, yeah, I mean, sure. I didn't think he'd actually do it. He just takes the microphone and he said, hey, did you guys play like slugs tonight? And just Kerr was dumbfounded.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I mean, I used to want to sell weed, so I figured selling books was my chance. You know what I'm saying?
Marcus,
I never got to sell crack, so
Marcus,
I can slang these books.
You promoted your book the day that Steph came back. That was you tapping into your past era. Your past era as a hustler, man, as a nickel and dime seller.
That one got Sarah.
That. You were selling Steph books in Steph's return this year.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how we do, man. Too Short said he walked from Foothill to Havens Court to 67th and Arthur selling tapes. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got tapes. I got books. I'm about to have toilet paper pretty soon, though.
Hey, congrats.
I can't help you with that.
A meme.
Ethan, I need you to figure out a way to bombard something with. I was trying to think of lines for you to interrupt with Victory Machine. The key is to put the title in the question in a manner that actually makes it a question and kind of sneak it in, but everybody knows what you're doing. That's the key.
Well, but the thing is, what press conferences are we even at? It would be some sort of Adam Silver talking about when the league is going to reopen from COVID-19.
I mean, just start Zoom bombing people.
Instagram Live.
Ethan, do you have another topic that you wanted to broach today? Because you mentioned you didn't want to just talk about how great you and your book was. You had all these damn topics. Do you have another topic, Ethan?
Okay. It's Warriors centric, obviously.
Okay, let's do it. Of course.
Okay. Was the whole Warriors run a top-down success that originated from new ownership, or was it bottom up and they lucked into great players? And which was it?
So this is my question that when I was reading the intro, I thought about instantly. What would have happened if Larry Ellison had bought the team?
I think about that a lot, yeah.
Like, would it be better? Would it be worse? Would it be just different? Like, I mean, I guess every owner is different, and their capacity to accept what they can control and get out of the way when they can't, it varies from owner to owner. But I wonder what Larry Ellison would have been like as an owner and what impact that would have had. I thought you brought up a great point about pressure, about being pressure from above being a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I asked that question a long time ago when I was young, and I was soundly rebuked. I said, basically, doesn't the pressure from above, while uncomfortable, doesn't it force you into efficiencies that you wouldn't already do on your own, right? That in essence, reacting to judgment, whether it's right or wrong, forces you to be way more inventive with the way you do it. And I was told to shut the fuck up when I asked that question. And so I've always had that ever since then. I always had to believe that, yeah, ownership is bad as far as ownership involvement. And what's good is an owner that says, look, this is the number. This is how much we're spending. If you want to go over it, then we can have a conversation about it.
I mean, I don't think it's about ownership. It's about somebody at the top having the buck stops here position, right? Where if the owner wants to make Greg Popovich that guy, that's fine. That's great. Right. You've got that guy. What's key is having that guy. The problem is when you have somebody like Chris Cohan who's absentee, and then in that power vacuum.
Man, you don't think Robert Rao was that guy?
Apparently not.
You thought he was that guy.
Who was the guy before Cohan?
Owner before?
Franklin Muley.
Was he that guy?
He actually was. He was a dude who sold Wilt because he went broke.
Oh my god.
Yeah, see? Franklin Muley.
Well, no,
the San
Marcus, I
Francisco
think it's
Warriors.
an important question to you because you actually are from Oakland in the Bay Area. Like, you grew up out there in the city. Like, I think it's something that, you can 100% speak to. Like, did you feel like Cohan was ever going to get it done?
Oh, no, there was no question he wasn't going to get it done. Like, it was just one of those, you had to sell the team. I feel the same about Mark Davis with the Raiders. Like, you got to give it up, man. I actually think Larry Ellison might have been rough for the team. I don't know if he cared about basketball that much.
Yeah.
I don't know if he cared about winning a basketball championship. If somehow he was motivated like he is for his sailing team, then all right. But can you do that with a sailing team and a basketball team? Like, I don't know. He might. That Tony Stark money allows you to not be as passionate as you want to be, right? Like, so I feel like number one, Joe really cared about like the Warriors and winning a championship, and also like he really needed to bubble his money. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like, it'd be cool if it don't make any money. It was like, nah, he put great expense into it, so it had to bubble. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been the profit he set out to make. Oh my God, a mosquito.
Does it? Wow. Marcus, does it matter, right? If he hires the right guy, and he's got more money than pretty much anyone other than Steve Ballmer, does it matter if he cares or not?
Nah, it doesn't. But the question is, can you care? Can you not care and hire the right guy? If you don't care, you're probably just gonna put your homie in. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody you know. If you care enough to actually vet, say what you want about Joe Lacob. Like, he had an idea about what he wanted, and he went and got some dudes that we were all like, why would you get this dude? Like, why would you hire Mark Jackson? Like, we were like, he's never coached before. Why would you hire Bob Myers as your agent when he's never done this before? But there were some things that he cared enough to at least come up with a list of qualities he wanted and then execute that. And it just so happened to work. If you don't care, maybe he's like, my son, let's go, Kirk.
Lacob's got this strange quality where he can see things in other people that he lacks. He doesn't have people skills. He doesn't have warmth. He doesn't have empathy. But yet he hires.
He's a father. Like, why are you just going at his like fatherhood?
I'm saying relatively speaking.
I mean, he's an Ayn Rand fan, man. We can call him unempathetic. But I'm saying, we could do that.
But I'm saying he can hire Steve Kerr and Bob Myers, and that's interesting to me.
Rick Welts, I think, is a really good hire.
Yeah, very emotionally intelligent.
Hold on, but Sam, hold on. What do you think would have happened if they would have? Because, like, I think about that question, in both ways. Like, if somebody would have got the team, and what course of action would they have taken? But I also think about, because Ethan mentioned a bunch of stuff that they didn't do, they didn't achieve that they tried to do. For instance, the Chris Paul trade. Do you think winner around Chris Paul after trading Steph and Clay for Chris Paul?
No, I mean, you're always going to have the uncertainty. The move was that I sit here thinking about the Steve Kerr hire. Like, I wrote at the time that I thought it was a mistake, and I knew that the vibe was bad between Mark and the organization, but I look at that one and they saw something I didn't see. To be honest with you, I thought that it was ironic because Mark didn't have the experience. Mark got them to a place that they hadn't been before, and then he didn't get rewarded for it because on paper he was doing a good job. Now the relationship stuff was sideways. That move worked out. You guys mentioned Bob Myers. Like, to me, those two hires, if you want to have that debate about bottom up, top down, those two are the ones where the argument is for top down. Now it's a mix. Like we all know it's a mixture of both.
Man,
But
them
like
dudes
with
ain't
Bob,
coming without the bottom up though.
I know they're not. But like with Bob, you know what I love about the Bob move is like the way. Remember the way they rolled that out because they kind of respected Larry Riley in that process, and they didn't just throw Bob in. And they said, Bob, you got to learn from Larry. Travis Schlenk was still around, and then next thing you know, Bob's on his way. And you're right, Marcus. Like they don't come without the dudes from. I mean, if Steph doesn't become Steph, we're not even sitting here talking. If Clay doesn't become who he is, and then Kevin never comes. I mean, to take it back to Ethan's book, you know, like Steph is the epicenter of this whole thing. Kevin never comes if Steph doesn't become Steph. But those two moves to me defines the ownership era.
Sam, you know, it's funny when you talk about how Bob Myers was brought along. You know, when the Knicks hired Leon Rose, a lot of people pointed to Golden State as, oh, look, they hired an agent. The Lakers, they hired an agent and it worked out. And my thing was, every time you see someone who's never done this job go straight to that front spot, it typically does not work because they have no idea what this landscape is. And the success stories were all people who came in, but they didn't come in at the top. No matter how long that period was, that training period was, there was a period of making mistakes and learning through them. Like, for instance, amnestying Charlie Bell so you can go after DeAndre Jordan. I mean, it just didn't make sense on any level, even at the time, even in the moment. Forget about hindsight. But that was something that they had to go through for them to learn. And I don't know if those lessons are learned if you go in straight to the top.
Jerry West, too, is a name that has been mentioned that matters.
Yeah.
Although that's a topic of debate.
Really?
I mean, do you
There's definitely a voice that's like Jerry West gets too much credit.
But that's true. No. But here's the thing. Like, Joe, this is, again, 100% Jerry got too much credit. And we all know, like, what people would say on the side. Like, Jerry was a big player for the last chapter of it. And Marcus is fighting mosquitoes.
Yo, I cannot get that.
But Joe, it's kind of what Slater said before. I think Ethan said it. I'm sorry. That Joe saw stuff in other people that he knew he didn't have and knew he needed. He knew that it was pretty cut and dried with Jerry. You add credibility, and I don't care if you golf every day. I don't have credibility, and I need that as part of my group. And next thing you know, you get the attention of people around the NBA. Players pay attention, and it gives you that cred that you didn't have before. So Jerry got too much credit in terms of day-to-day because he wasn't really part of the day-to-day for the most part, but I still think that was a great move.
I think
it
cannot.
I know Jerry gets too much credit, Ethan, because you guys are saying it, and so does everybody around the Clippers.
Well,
yeah.
Here's my thing.
Oh my God! Jesus.
But here's the thing. There's a like Sam said. There's a value to it, man. There's a value to him like co-signing. His co-sign means something in a way that all of us could say the same things that he says, but it doesn't hold the same weight.
No.
So I think there is a value to it there. But more importantly, most of the time when you get guys in these roles, they are dinosaurs. They don't co-sign. They're there to say, you could do that if you're trying to fuck this whole shit up, which is literally that's I can count hundreds of examples over the years of the old veteran guy they brought in. Usually it's on the coaching staff, but sometimes in the front office as an advisor. And all they end up being is that guy like, you could do that if you're trying to fuck this shit up. And Jerry was not that guy, for one. And for two, Ethan, you and I have talked about this a lot. For a guy played in a bygone era and was successful as an exec in a bygone era, he's remarkably sharp and up to date on where the game is.
Yeah.
Right? There are hundreds of people who played decades after Jerry West who have archaic visions of where basketball is.
He watches a ton of basketball. I mean, Jerry West actually gets the use out of his league pass. You know, he's watching it. Yeah, I mean, he's that advanced that he actually gets the league pass and it actually functions.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I do wonder if there's a value additionally. I mean, it's easy for us to dismiss the power of Jerry West in a way, but if you're a baby boomer, if you're one of these other owners maybe of the age that Joe Lacob is, I mean, the people who are
he walked
famous,
into the board meetings. What?
Dude, they listen, man. Like,
Yeah.
look, real talk. When Steve Kerr first started working for us at the Suns, his main value, like, I'm not saying like he didn't know anything. Obviously, Steve's a smart guy and great people skills and a great leader and all that. But one of the main values for him is that you can say things and Robert will just go along with it because you're Steve fucking Kerr in a way that David Griffin and Mark West and John Shoemate and Todd Quinter, and like all these names don't mean anything to Robert, but Steve Kerr does. And so there absolutely is a cachet there. And obviously when you talk about Jerry West, that sweeps across generations in a way that even, Steve at the time could not possess.
Well, I believe there's something called high chair famous, where it's the people in your life where you became aware of them when you were sitting on a high chair watching them on the TV, and they're going to occupy a place in
Man,
your
who the
mind.
hell remembers who they were watching in a high chair? Nobody
You know what I'm
remembers
talking.
that.
You know what I'm talking. about.
Metaphorically, Marcus.
It's a turn of
Metaphorically.
phrase.
You know what I'm
Come
talking
on, let the
about.
guy. He just dropped the book.
Literally.
I mean, he writes a
around
book
here.
and he just gets to make up stuff. I get it. My fault.
You know what's funny is I actually stole that from Conan O'Brien. He said it in an interview and it stuck in my mind. So it's not even. But the people you became aware of when you were young occupy a place in your mind that the people, and we go through this in our job where, like players who are younger than we are, they're just not the same as when Larry Bird or Michael Jordan, walks into a room.
Either
I got an
Hold
uncle.
on. Sam, you can finish the point, and after that, I gotta jump in because we gotta keep the show going. We're not trying to do this for 3 hours, and we got other guests. We gotta get up in there. So, Sam, please jump in with your point, and then go ahead.
to Ethan's high chair point, I got a shout out to my uncle Skip, who's in his late 60s, I think early 70s now. I knew Jerry was a big deal to the Boomers when I was at a family party and my phone rang. And it was Jerry, and my uncle does not care about basketball at all. And he saw Jerry West's name on my phone, and about lost his mind. Like that's it's the Joe Lacob.
That's a nice little name drop you just did there, Sam. I like that.
Very casual, very
like
subtle,
that.
and that's what made it good.
The other one is, without providing the context, Jerry once got upset with me for a story. In my whole career, he's the only person I've covered who inspired a wine glass in my house. He told me that he thought I was better than that. And I told that story to my neighbor, and I came home one day, and my neighbor had a wine glass engraved that said, "You're better than that," the logo.
Amazing.
That's
a
awesome.
great story.
Listen, I know we got to get Sam and Tony out of here. Before you guys get out of here, I wanted to ask you guys, what's the moment from the dynasty that's gonna stick with you? Not like, oh, it's the biggest, most important, blah 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 moment, but for you two personally, and we can start with Tony because he hasn't chimed in a while. I don't know what's going on over there in Oklahoma. But
there's
Tony,
like 9 other panelists on here.
That's not his motive.
I think I know what slates might go
Tony,
with, but
what
maybe I'm
is
wrong.
the moment that's gonna stick with you?
Oh man,
forever?
I wish you went with Sam first so I could think about mine.
I want you off the cuff.
Is it you, me, and Nate Duncan after the Game 6 loss, just hanging out at Nate's place and just kind of laughing punch drunk hysterically at everything that had happened and like the whole culmination of everything and what a disaster it ended in? Because that's it for me. I mean, I wish I had used that as a scene in my book, but that's it for me.
No, that's not it.
Dang
that
it.
was funny though.
Dang it. Trifling
I would
funny.
probably say the first title because I had covered Durant in Oklahoma City, had come over, and
you left you left when KD left. I remember that.
Yeah. So
you snake.
Yeah, that's what she was saying. I mean, that's what she was poking you with.
Don't tell Ennis Canner. He's called
Yeah. I
Um,
remember that. That was
So when they won that first title, they let me. I just followed him around during like the 3-hour post celebration. He was getting drunk, and like Bill Russell was coming up to him, and like I've never seen him so happy. It's that night that ended with him in the parking lot with the trophy. Like, you guys have seen the video. I think it's on the trailer that Jay put together, where he's like, raising the Finals MVP trophy in the parking lot of adoring Warriors fans, and like that was the pinnacle peak of like the Durant experience. I was around his family that night, Rich Kleiman. They knew I had come from Oklahoma City, so like their argument the whole night was like, see, we told you this was the right move, and like it seemed so
that,
correct.
Sarah?
It seemed so correct at the moment.
Was unnecessary.
And then, honestly, just like 3 months later, after he went through that off season that included like him just not getting the validation he wanted, it like leading up to campus when he had the burner situation and what it became after that is crazy to me. But also that first year, like I think we forget about the joy of that first year and the joy of that first title that he got. And I had never covered a title team. I remember just like being, it was weird being around just a completely drunk NBA team. In the aftermath. I mean, KD was like literally like staggering drunk and burping, and like I remember David West was going ballistic on the court, and like everyone was having a good time. So I would just say that first year celebration would probably be the thing I would remember most.
Sam?
So Slater, my guy Tony was positive. I'm gonna go the other way. Honestly, like when Ethan announced this party, I retweeted the announcement and said that it was some of the most uncomfortable coverage that I'd been a part of to the end. And so, like, Waz, when you asked that question, the moment that comes to mind, and actually I think Marcus watched this happen in person, or we definitely talked about it, was during the finals last year, the tail end of the entire experience with them and Kevin. I had written during the finals that there were teammates of Kevin's who were confused and frustrated as to why he hadn't returned earlier in the finals before he got hurt again. And Sean Livingston, I think this is fair to share because I think Sean would definitely stand by his perspective. Like after one of the games in Toronto, Sean wanted to talk about the story. He wasn't happy about it, didn't agree with it. And it was like, I remember feeling like, man, Sean, like, I know you're mad at the Messenger, but you guys have this tension internally that you're mad at us for writing about occasionally, and we've been writing about it for quite some time, and it was like they had a hard time looking in the mirror and really kind of owning what they were fighting as a group, if that makes sense. And a lot of that sprouted from Kevin and his free agency, Kevin and the uncertainty, Kevin and the idea that he wouldn't certainly commit even verbally to them earlier in the year, and they all kind of they walked that line of, we're going to respect his right to choose in free agency, but no, we're not going to lie to you and tell you that we're thrilled with the way he's handled, his decision. And in the finals, that was just palpable. And I go back to that word uncomfortable because like Sean is just an incredible human being and a dude who I've enjoyed covering for so long. And like, you see the look on his face when he's trying to like reconcile everything within their locker room and what's in the media. And it was just uncomfortable. So, I mean, for me, that's like when you just shake your head and go, all right, I think this thing's over. And obviously it was.
Sam, thank you for being a negative Nancy. I'm just kidding. Thank you, Sam, Tony. Thank you for coming on, man. I love talking to you guys all the time. Obviously, Ethan is happy. I don't need to speak for him, Ethan. You can tell them how much you love them and all that.
Yeah, I mean, they hear it enough. They hear it enough. Get Sacramento.
That gross, sappy shit. Tell them how much you love them. You appreciate them.
Get Sacramento. Get Sacramento sadness out of here. I mean, that's what I gotta say. No. Sam, thanks for stopping by, man.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, man. Guys. Thanks, later.
Good.
All right. We moving this show along. We keeping the blackness ratio up. I like that. That's a change for the show. Get those fools out of here. Before we move on, man, I just want to say again, shout outs to theathletic.com. They're actually sponsoring this show today. And by sponsoring, I just mean they let us live. They let us breathe. They let us do what we had to do tonight. No paywall. We let the people come celebrate with Ethan as he, celebrates the first book release of his life. Marcus already has 2, so he's bored by the entire thing. But still.
Very proud of Ethan. I'm hyper than Ethan.
But still, hey, shouts to Jay Skeets, who I know is watching at his crib right now. He's a big fan of Ethan and everything that we do, and he supports all this stuff.
They're like the Godfather, man.
And shouts to Trey's mom, who's also in the chat.
Skeets, and we're also gonna have the 2 people who single-handedly brought down the Warriors dynasty on later on in the show. But first, But first,
nice one.
Ben Gordon is on the chat. Ben Gordon is a big Count the Dings contributive fan. He's one of the people of the people. Ben, man, I heard you have a question for the panel. Don't waste our time, please.
I will answer the question and then I will take a bathroom break and run back because like
Yes,
I
sir,
got,
yes,
I got
sir, yes,
this
sir, yes,
going
sir.
on.
Yes, sir.
I got
You
this
got to,
going
you got
on.
to, you
But
got to.
I will answer first, and I will run back. So, the question, what is it?
Thank you. This is also, I'm not the Ben Gordon. A Ben Gordon.
We know you're not from Mount Vernon, boy. Don't ever play yourself. You never played in the Big East. What's wrong with you, boy? You're not from New York, boy.
Oh, I'm from New York. I'm not from Mount Vernon.
Oh, okay. You from New York. You from
Queens.
that other New York.
Chris Haynes?
Oh, no, you from Forest Hills. I forgot we had that combo. My memory's
Anyway,
bad,
I don't want to
man.
waste
You're
your time.
not real Queens, New Yorker.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to waste your time, but Ethan, my question is, and I would say first time, long time, but I've called in many times to the show. Do you think they were happy when Kevin Durant left? I mean, you heard them saying like Sam Amick saying, like, they were all anxious about him leaving during the finals and they wanted to be so protective of him. And then you heard Anthony Slater saying he's so calm on his off days, and he's not even a part of the team. Do you think it's just like, I mean, just being around the team this year, it's such a different team. It's just that it was just that core, like, and then most of them weren't playing. Do you think they were happy that he was gone, or just, I don't know?
I think there was a sense that the story had run out, and whether that's happy that he's leaving or wanting it desperately, I don't know. It was just a sense that whatever was happening here, kind of like the Bulls in The Last Dance, they had a knowledge early on that this was going to be the end of it, and I don't think that they desperately wanted it to continue. I don't think that they cheered its ending necessarily, but they knew it was going that way. And we often, I have to say, I mean, we often do this thing where we say them, the Warriors. There are different personalities. I believe there are Warriors, people within the organization who are saying, I can't wait for Kevin to leave. And then there are other people who said, no, this is the cost of doing business. This is the greatest basketball player I've ever seen. So, I mean, I don't know if that's a great answer to your question. I just think that they were relieved. They were relieved to be out of that particular spotlight, just like the Miami Heat were when Tom covered them, because it's exhausting and it ends up just not being a lot of fun to continue to try to win when people are miserable with one another.
I do think at any moment, if KD would have said, nah, you know what, let's do this, man. All right. And like KD could have said at the end, I was just trying to get the most money I could get. I don't know why y'all was tripping. I think everybody would be like, oh, cool, let's keep this thing going. Let's run it. I think they got to a point where they realized he wasn't going to do that. But at any moment, if he did that, I think they would have said, yeah, let's do this. It just became so clear he wasn't doing that at some point they just wanted the angst to go away. And like they talked about not being free, like like walking on eggshells, that type of stuff. And I don't know that KD was like forcing them to do that. I just don't think KD understood like the power he had. I think he wanted to be a regular dude on the side, kind of chilling, let him do his thing. But like I remember talking to him before, I'm like, but dude, you're Kevin Durant, like this is how people are gonna respond to you. Like when you walk in the room is different. So I think he wanted to just kind of chill, but when he walked in, they were like, okay, KD is here. We have to kind of adapt or do something. I think they got tired of that part of it. But I really believe at any moment, if he's like, you know what, I gave it a long, hard thought. Let's run this back. They would have been like, yeah, let's do it. Let's run it back. As long as he, was like in it like he was in the first year. Yeah.
Let me ask y'all this. Do y'all think, obviously never say never, but I'm beginning to really think ain't nobody ever going to win 4 championships in a row. Because if you look,
not this climate, nah.
No, not in any climate. Because I thought about like, okay, the Miami Heat, like they were together for 4 years, and then like at some point, even best friends were just like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. And then you go back before that, like the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe, and they couldn't keep it together for much longer. And then you go before that, you say, well, the Bulls won 6, well, like they won 3, and then they like went 2 years of a lot of change, and then they came back and won 3 again, and they're making a 10-part documentary about why they couldn't come back after that one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the Lakers and the Celtics, and you go back, you know what they had in the Celtics of the '60s. Ethan, I was just talking about. I'm beginning to think no team will ever win 4 titles in a row ever again.
Why do you think that?
Just because, forget about the talent and how hard it is to win a championship. People get tired of each other because people get tired of each other. Those 3 peats are separated by 2 years with a lot of change in there, and both of them ended rather like unceremoniously of like, I can't be around each other anymore, right? And so if I think about the Celtics of the 60s and the reason why they were able to win 8 in a row and 10 out of 12 or whatever, part of it is obviously it's the 60s and there was only like 8 teams, and like if you have a guy like Bill Russell, he's just so much better than almost every other player in the league. But part of it is also, I think those guys understood who they were. Yeah. Like, oh, yeah, it's Bill Russell's team, man. I ain't even gonna bullet. Like Bob Cousy, talk about crying, like feeling shame when he was hurt one time and he missed like 12 straight games, and Russell like basically willed the Celtics to win 12 in a row. And on that 13th game when Cousy coming back, like all the papers in Boston were like, oh, finally a crisis averted. Bob Cousy's coming back. And as Cousy's telling the story, he starts crying because he's like, everyone knew the only person who was irreplaceable was Bill, but he never got the credit from media or for the fans. But in a weird way, A, Bill didn't give a shit about that, right? So that's important. And B, everyone who played with him understood that dynamic and didn't have any delusions of like, why come so-and-so gets it? Like, they just went out there and played.
Why are you talking slave right now?
I don't like him.
That's my hater voice. When someone's jealous of a team,
Typical
like,
Boston
why come he gets all the shine? So as I think back and envision all the great dynastic teams, I don't think we can ever have that again because of what Pat Riley said, the disease of me. Like at some point, guys can overcome it.
Egos get in the way.
But don't you think, I mean, this is sort of the thesis of this book, the modern conditions make it all the more difficult because, I mean, that's what Adam Silver believes, at least, and what he was saying at the Sloan Conference, that when you look at The Last Dance, when you look at the Bulls, they had to come together as a team because they had moments together. They were on the bus, and now currently it seems like we're just more atomized. It's the nature of the technology. Oh, speaking of the division.
Stop spoiling all the guests, Ethan.
Ethan, so this is what I would push back.
The Eastern Division. How dare you?
What is he on screen yet, or should I still filibuster?
No.
Okay. So what Marcus said was, I think when you went to the bathroom, if Kevin Durant had said on July 1, you know what? I changed my mind. I'm coming back. The Warriors would have welcomed him back with open arms, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that if Michael, I mean, look, I know this for a fact. Michael said, I'm not going to play for any other coach but Phil Jackson. And the Bulls still broke that shit up. Like, think about that. And that's in a time when all the technology and all that shit you're talking about did not exist. But at the end of the day, that group has reached the limit of what around for together. And maybe that pressure in that case wasn't all within the players. Maybe it was management and players and the coach. But the reality is at some point this organization, despite everything indicating we're going to keep winning forever, you're like, nah, on second, I'd rather try something different.
Yeah, I feel the story had run out. You know, it's possible what Marcus was saying. But I think they would grin and bear it. You know, I think they would grin and bear it. I feel like there would not be little secret fist pumps. It would be, shit, I guess we got to do this. I mean, I guess this is how what we got to do to win. That's what would be the reaction if he said he was coming back in that way at that late juncture.
All right, I gotta interrupt you, Ethan. Ben Gordon, thank you for your question, man. Thank you for being a patron. Thank you for being one of the best of the best. We're trying to set up our next group of guests, man. We got 2 brothers coming in who, you know, have just as much a hand of getting on KD's goddamn nerves as anybody.
It's a great intro.
And before we do that, Ethan, sorry, I just took out my microphone.
Good job.
We live, guys.
I can't hear a word you're saying.
No.
No. Mumble rap.
Can you hear me?
I'll just do this.
Yeah, we can hear you.
There it is, Ethan. Finally,
you're
you're
good.
learning.
You're good.
Marcus, it only took him 2 hours to learn.
Yeah, to promote that book.
Hey.
Okay, as Jay gets our next few guests. Oh, Andy Lou is in the building. What's up, man? We got Andy. I didn't even get to introduce you, Andy Lou. Welcome to the Victory Machine celebration, man. You know, you were on the show very recently and you refused to take credit for fucking up the dynasty, but I gotta say, man, you fucked up the dynasty.
Who's playing quarters, by the way? Like, what's going
that's
on?
Marcus. Marcus out there scratching. I could see him scratching.
It's always Marcus. It's always Marcus. It's never not Marcus. Come on, man.
Hey, don't I sound great?
Yeah, I just muted him with the quarters. Go ahead, Andy.
Hey, look. I think
Moderator was.
I think you'll enjoy the shirt, though. I don't know if you can see it.
Yes.
I love that
Wow.
shirt.
Andy Lou ruined the dynasty.
Shouts to Warriors World. Shouts to Sheed. Just sent one.
What up, Sheed?
Nice.
What up, Sheed? You should have been on this call. Sam Esfandiari is in the building. Jay, bring Sam Esfandiari. Yeah, you on? You about to be on, brother?
You know, I'm just gonna be serious right now. It's a big myth that these guys ruined the dynasty.
Look at Ethan. Look at my guy.
It's a big myth.
Look at my guy.
Ethan's like, it was me.
Flex.
A little bit.
Everyone
little
was
bit.
fantasy.
I mean, I don't even know. Was it just that Steph better maybe was a trope that Andy unleashed? I don't think Andy was trying to drive KD away. I don't think
But
that was
Steph
any part
Better
of what he
was
was trying to do.
before KD. It was about like Chris Paul and Westbrook and all these other cats. It wasn't even about KD initially.
Yeah.
Repurposed. It got repurposed.
By the way, I didn't even cover the team the last year. I wasn't even there. I kind of wish I was there. Just I could have been the one that KD was yelling at instead of Ethan. That would have been fun.
Well, okay,
I just
so
wasn't around the
You
team.
would have wrote the book, Andy. See,
I would have loved it. Yeah, I can't write like Ethan, but it would have been fun.
This has nothing to do with the book, but I'm curious, Andy, because you were knocking on the door of being a media person. You were showing up to games. I would see you at Oracle, and you just gave it up entirely. And what made you say, "Fuck this"? And to be blunt about it, what was it?
Yeah, I live in San Francisco. Oakland's kind of far, so after
It's just rank laziness.
honestly, I covered them for like the last year of Mark Jackson into the after the back-to-back, and I said I don't want to do this shit no more. So that honestly, that was why I went back and covered the team again when they came to Chase, but then they suck, so I stopped going to games. So very
this is
very
a lie.
simple.
He got the Tiger Dad routine about like what are you doing?
I'm not showing up if Steph's not showing up. Okay, that's very simple.
Wow.
Damn.
Sam just outed you.
Yeah, you got.
It's not holding back tonight.
When do you start med school?
By the way, shouts to Marcus. Marcus did want to help, and I told Marcus, "Yeah, man, I don't want to do it. I'm good."
Yeah, I tried to literally hire you, dude.
Sorry, MT. I appreciate it.
He was like, "Yo, I'll make too much."
No, maybe. Ethan was the
not
one.
Maybe literally, he was like, "No, I'll make way too much money to do that."
Nah. Ethan told me not to go into journalism school, so he saved me there too. So it's a good story. It's a good story.
Yeah, I saved you about $40K there. It's
nice. It's a pretty penny.
Yeah, it's I mean, I have no idea. I'm throwing a number out there.
40K. That's 1 year.
Maybe some people got some great things from the Columbia Journalism School. I have no idea, but I just know for me personally, I don't know what it would have added up.
You don't mess with KD's head with a journalism degree. You can do that shit for free. I do it for free. I don't get paid.
Oh my god.
How about that, by the way? I missed that whole part where he's talking about Patrick Beverly not getting in his head, but then he got in his own head because of people telling him Patrick Beverly shouldn't get in his head. And that blew my mind. I was like, why are you saying this? Shut up. Just stop talking.
He's an interesting guy to cover, man. He was good for business. I mean, we miss him at the Athletic.
Yeah.
It's he was a very, very entertaining player in many ways. But yeah, some of the things he said, it's funny. he would often be getting at something that was true, and then at other times I couldn't keep track of it. It just didn't make sense to me.
I want to hear.
You
I
was
want to hear
about to
Sam's
say
thoughts.
something.
Sounds like what?
Ethan, it feels like you was about to give an example of KD like getting at something, and then you being like, "Wait, what?"
No, I felt that way when I was writing the book. When I was going through any quote of his, I thought he was often getting at something. He was often right, but he was coming at it from such an oblique angle that it was hard to really tell. And then I think there's this element of the people around superstars are just going to validate whatever they say, so they start saying some crazy things. I think that also happens.
The scene with the sailors or whatever the military people in the hookah spot.
Yeah,
that was kind of weird too, man. Like, do you think it was genuine curiosity? Did you have a genuine curiosity, or was he just making conversation?
It's funny because we had Beckley on earlier. I said my friend. I didn't say his name, I think, in the book, but Beckley was actually the other person there. That
nice.
So, well, maybe in the future we can get. No, I think
I'm glad you protected his identity, because you fucking put me on blast several times. Clearly not for public consumption.
Well, anyway,
I literally had to threaten Ethan to keep taking me out the book. I was like, I'm never gonna talk to you again.
And you're still
my god!
But no, I think he was curious. He was legitimately like, he's a curious guy. He was really interested in what these sailors do and what it's like. But there's always a wistfulness and a heaviness, or there often is, where there was an element of genuine curiosity in what these sailors do, but there was also an element of, what I do, it's going to end soon. I don't know. Sadness.
This was before he played a game for the Warriors, though, right?
Yes.
Jesus.
It was before the first preseason game. It was interesting. He's an interesting guy, but
Oklahoma City KD showed up, right? And that first year, like he was the real down to earth guy. He's chatting a lot. Yeah,
he was faking the funk.
You think if
he was servant? KD.
God. Yeah, he was a servant.
He was the servant, because Slim Reaper was. Why would I want to be the Slim? Why would I want to be the bringer of death? I'd rather be a servant.
That was the first red flag.
N-word, please.
Weird, just a weird nickname. Seems kind of problematic too.
The servant is a very strange nickname. It's not one I can really
weird.
conjure Marv Albert yelling out when somebody
the
servant.
Very
spectacular move by the servant.
The servant. Yes.
What did Fitz call him? Kid Dynamite?
Oh God.
At the parade? Or did he got better?
Now that I think about it, that was the high point. That was the high point.
Knockout Kings on PlayStation 2, I believe. That was one of the nicknames you could give your little created boxer. It was Kid Dynamite. That's how you know. It's a freaking horrible nickname.
Fitz is fucking 10 years old.
Trying to make fetch happen. Remember Steph Human Torch Mode? How often he leaned on that one?
Oh man, he was pushing that one tough, huh? I think he might have that patented. We should have looked it up.
Fremont.
From Fremont, from Hayward.
That's a Gus Johnsonism right there, where you start shouting out local geography of places that's far away from the arena.
All right, so I'll introduce one last topic.
Yes, please.
Because there's a lot of controversy over Steve Kerr, especially with Sam and Andy. So I ask you guys. Look, it's true. It's true.
What happened this time? What are we talking? What's going on now?
General.
How many times did Steve Kerr tell you?
Now.
Let him ask the question.
Tell us to stop harassing KD.
I have to be honest. And Marcus would probably say the same thing. And I don't want to just hurt your egos, but Steve Kerr has never mentioned either of you.
Good for him. Good for him.
No, there was that. No, remember that one time? Remember he? No, that wasn't them. My bad.
It's almost like someone who's making millions of dollars in the NBA being very successful shouldn't give a shit about two jackasses.
That's what I say every day. Steve Kerr is doing it right. By the way, his wife unfollowed me. He got sick of me. I was just like, you know what? I've had enough of Eddie's takes. Get the fuck out of here.
The role for family is to get in those social media trenches and fight it out. It's not the role for
Good for Steve. Stand-up guy. Tell him I say hi though, Ethan.
I will. I'll relay that. But yeah, that has never happened with Steve. It's never been Steve would he'd complain about the emails he got from fans that they always wanted more pick and roll, and he would explain the why of it or why he doesn't do more.
He'd reply?
More JaVale.
More
Wait, hold
JaVale.
on. He'd reply to them?
He replied to fan emails, not necessarily about that subject, but he would.
What's wrong with y'all, man?
What is the controversy, Ethan? I guess we got off track. What is the?
Yeah, what was the question?
Just you can take either one of these. Could any coach have won with that 2017 team? Would any coach have won the championship?
Yeah.
Or you can take it in the direction of how integral was Steve Kerr to the success of the dynasty? Whichever one you want to go with.
Sam, please.
Okay, first of all, Steve Kerr
if there's
implemented that offense.
Yeah, if there's no Steve Kerr, KD doesn't even want to go there. So we can start there.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe another coach implements something that's similar and it also gets people going, but they didn't. So you kind of have to start there.
Like, would Stan Van Gundy win a championship with that team?
2017? Yeah.
2017? Yeah. 2016?
That's
I mean,
what Ethan
2015? Maybe
asked.
not. Yeah, maybe not.
But at the same time, like 2017 it's hard to remove Steve Kerr from the equation, right? Like, and also we got to watch Mike Brown and Luke Walton coach lesser versions of that 2017 team and do just fine. They were doing Steve Kerr's thing.
They were running
like
on
they
autopilot.
weren't posting up Klay Thompson 20 times a game under Steve Kerr, right? Like they were doing the Steve Kerr thing.
I don't know. That Utah series, Mike Brown went straight to pick and roll like 80 straight times, and Steve Kerr would have never done that. It was like the substitute teacher was in. Oh, mosquitoes back.
Puts on a movie. Substitute teacher comes in, puts on a movie.
Well, I mean, that's probably they probably would have beat Houston quicker. By the way, I mean, the fact that you're not wearing a beanie or a hoodie to hide your, I respect that.
Oh
like,
my God.
Waz is wearing a cap. Like
Why does any of this matter, Andy? Who am I impressing?
Look at me.
You got like 500 and some people watching right now.
That's right.
That is true.
Wow.
Count the Things live record, by the way. The first time we broke the record was actually our Sam and Andy record. And it was 100 viewers peak because of the Light Years podcast. And today, because Ethan dropped his magnum opus, we got shit, man. We peaked at 560 or something crazy like that. I thought we was going to get to 1,000, but maybe we should have did a Jordan book or something. I don't know.
Do you think, by the way, Ethan, did you send a book to KD?
No, I didn't send a book to KD.
So you think he bought it?
Did you offer?
You think he bought it? And he's
you
reading it right
asked
now.
Hey, why would I send? Why would I send a book to KD? I would just think if you want to read it, then he'd buy it, then they get another book sale. Why would I do that?
Did y'all see chapter 5? I'm gonna say no.
I haven't read it yet. No spoilers, please.
Kevin Durant leaves the Warriors.
Is it?
What? Damn it! Come on, guys. Wait, I have a question for Ethan. Can I ask Ethan a question? Is that legit?
Yes, ask him a question right now.
Here's my question. What was the moment that you knew that the pre-Kevin Durant lineup was super special? Like that was going to be at least a contender for a championship. Like, do you remember the moment where you realized that as someone covering the team?
I mean, I don't know if there was I don't think it was the moment Mark Jackson got fired. No,
wasn't it?
It was.
Ethan, thank you very much, Waz.
It was when Lindsey Hunter.
All you motherfuckers.
I wish I had some great story where there was a specific dunk, that really solidified it, and like I knew right then. But it was really the totality of watching the preseason. And I do remember being at we would have these summits. Remember the ESPN, like the ESPN NBA summits that we would have? And I think they would be in the fall. And I remember I was just thinking in my head when I was in Connecticut in some meeting where they're just going on about, I don't know, sexual harassment policy. I can't even remember. And I'm just looking at That sounds so bad. I mean, expense reports.
I was gonna let it slide. I
don't know. They're going on about something. They're saying something. I got fired. Obviously, I wasn't paying attention. But I was just looking at clips and I was just thinking to myself, like, this is different, dude. This is different. And then I was looking at the stats, and I just remember being in that room and thinking, I think they're going to win the championship. And it sounds crazy, but you know what?
Preseason. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think they're going to win the championship. And
remember when you ain't get the credit for that, man?
I think I got the credit for it. I think I got too much credit for it.
Yeah, no, you got the credit, and some people were saying, they also had said that also, but not obviously. It was in conversations with people. They didn't say it publicly, but they had definitely said it because I'd mentioned it several times before on my podcast that I'd actually talked about it, and also talked about how the Spurs or the Heat or the Bulls or the Blazers or the Sonics or the Anaheim Amigos or the Flint Tropics might also, but they definitely the Warriors did too. So
right, success has many fathers, as they say.
And some
of failure is a bastard. Is that the rest of that quote?
I think it's failure is an orphan, and theoretically JFK, but maybe not JFK said it.
You made it a bastard.
I just thought about Jon Snow. So all right, give us another topic, Ethan, because we about to get up out of here, man. But
I think I'm fresh out of topics. Unless we got somebody who could introduce a great topic to discuss. I think I might.
Ethan ran out of topics. I'm shocked.
No, I didn't. I'm like, no
way.
I'm like Wesley Snipes, the White Man Can't Jump. Like I'm pulling topics out of my socks. I'm pulling topics out of my ears. I can just say, was the D'Lo signing a disaster or a great success? I can just throw anything at her.
So let me ask you this.
Thoughts on Jordan Poole summer development?
Ethan, so as y'all probably can gathered, Ethan is a very deferential to praise descending on him. Having said that, I was surprised how many times you used the I, me, and indeed dedicated an entire chapter to your personal relationship with Kevin Durant. Was that hard for you to do?
Yes.
Be so first person?
Yeah. And the whole point of it was you wanted to differentiate it from the normal article writing, because otherwise it gets screwed up in your head. It becomes robbing Peter to pay Paul. So I just needed to find a tone, a voice, and sometimes I'll go in it. Like the Don Nelson thing is more like that, the whole Don Nelson disaster. But I thought to myself, if I write this book in the way that an article would be written, everything's going to blur together. I'm going to lose track of what is what. I'm not going to be able to do the books. So it made sense to do first person, but it also made me feel wildly uncomfortable because it would be analyzed as to what were you doing? Why did you say that? As opposed to being
except for that part where you put the whole team sale article into the book.
Well, yeah.
Except for that part.
Wait up, Stugotz and everyone.
Hey man, when I saw Anthony Bourdain, when I saw that Anthony Bourdain, may he rest in peace, took his New Yorker article and made it the first chapter in his book, I figured it was it worked out. It's funny. I was about to say it worked out well for that guy, but that doesn't sound right too soon.
Yikes.
Before we even do that, Daniel Montrose is on. He's a guest. He's a big Count the Dings head. He's everything to the community. I know you came on with a question. Daniel, what's your question for the panel?
Is Daniel muted?
We can't hear you, Daniel.
Can't hear you.
You're muted, Daniel. Unmute yourself, brother.
All right. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can hear.
There you go.
Are you in the
So my question. No, we're gonna do it.
Okay, go ahead.
It would be fine if you were, despite the tone in Waz's voice just now.
Just go ahead. We got company, right?
My question. It is after midnight though. So my question is really so KD's gonna be in Brooklyn now. So what's really gonna change? Especially him coupled with Kyrie, because I feel like that's like two barrels of just gunpowder, just ready to explode.
Those things where everybody thinks it's going to explode to the point where maybe it won't, but it probably will. I mean, come on.
I think that the fact that they're really friends helps. I do think that. I mean, I wrote about this, but part of the reason Steph and KD couldn't become tight like that, they just couldn't. Steph's got like three kids and a wife who's like a business mogul. They just couldn't do it. I give them a shot because KD and Kyrie are legit friends. So if they need to argue, they're gonna argue, and they'll be all right. Like after that.
Wasn't Draymond KD's friend?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if in that same sense. And plus,
Maybe
Draymond, he got a kid. Like like you had to spend time with KD.
So if Kyrie has a kid,
have
it's over. Is what you're saying?
Didn't Kyrie have a
You gotta
kid?
spend time
Yeah,
with
he
it.
had
How
a
clingy
daughter.
is this guy? Jeez. Nice, you gotta
Kyrie
spend
100% has a child. I do know that.
Here's what I know.
I know Draymond he got a new girl. He got engaged. He was raising his kids. Like at some point, I just don't think they could kick. Here's what surprised me that he didn't get tight with Clay. I thought they were natural to link up, but it didn't work out. that way.
Marcus will elaborate on why, but yeah.
Here's the thing about Kyrie
I know
and
why.
KD is I don't know if you can have two people be
I
around
almost
each
said
other
something
all
I
the
shouldn't.
time when they can't communicate directly and when everything is taken as a slight. I don't know. I think that's a friendship that's built off of distance, and I'm not around you that much. And when those people are around each other all the time, you can't avoid it with I just haven't seen them or talked to them in a while. And so those are the things that I think about when you talk about what's going to happen in Brooklyn. I just think of two guys who are incredibly sensitive to everything and both think they're the victim. Like it sounds great when they're comparing situations. Yeah, man, me too. Until they're in the same situation, then somebody's got to be the bigger victim. And which one of them has the wherewithal to be like, all right, I know this is kind of bullshit, but I'm gonna let him be the big victim because it doesn't bother me as much. Well, that dynamic doesn't exist between the two of them.
I'm like envisioning a Marv Albert NBA and NBC intro where it's the battle of victimhood colliding. Like, who will be the bigger victim next?
It was a great episode.
Y'all don't know me.
A great
Y'all
episode.
don't know me.
Yo, Ethan, man, we're gonna wrap this thing
Oh,
up.
hold on. I had a question, man.
Go ahead. Hey, my bad.
All right, so Ethan, I had a real problem with this line that you had early in the book.
Oh, goodness.
It says, Lake Up regularly watches First Take, ESPN's theatrical, chest-pounding debate show. All good so far. The daytime sports joust isn't exactly geared to the white-collar set. But Stephen A. Smith and company at least have one venture capitalist completely hooked. I thought that was kind of like classist. Classist. That's exactly what I was going to say. Because I dare you to introduce me to the big sports fan who is a white collar, whether he's a billionaire or a doctor or a lawyer, who comports himself with, actually, we're going to have an intellectual conversation about whether or not
They don't.
They all love that. And that's not
Be
like
cut and dried about it. I mean, theoretically, CEOs who everybody says they work, 70 hours a week. Like, how much time do they have to watch like daytime sports talk? Like, I think that's
not like collar though. You made it seem like these are motherfuckers at a construction site. Yeah, First Take, boy. Yeah, bro, say that. Like,
if anything,
all
I
the
feel like
Silicon Valley
normal
bros aren't
people are the ones who look down upon.
I like
first.
Amin's bro impersonation is top notch. That was
like the construction guys are like Isla Vista, UC Santa Barbara, like
That's Sam's hometown right there.
Construction, bro.
Well, I guess maybe
Building
we're learning
houses.
something. Maybe we're learning that is the customer. It's people who feel like speak into existence. I'm an entrepreneur. Joe Lacob. I mean, I don't know. I haven't done a whole survey. Maybe the majority of people who own teams, are of that mindset. Possibly.
Another thing here is the wrap it up music.
This is gonna make it seem like this is gonna make it seem like Amin asked me a hard question and like
No.
I'm like the guy from the World Health Organization
There's
when
no
the
reason to
reporter
stop.
from Taiwan
Keep doing
started asking
thing.
questions.
Nobody literally has anything to do. So
Well, I have to interview at 9:30, but other than that,
Yeah, Ethan's a big deal. He has lots of things to do.
author.
So there's a part.
Published author, future New York Times bestseller. I'm putting it in the universe.
All you got to do is promise to pay people, Cash App people. if they buy your book, and then you'll be a bestseller.
I'm not going to acknowledge that shot fired because that was messy as hell.
I'm just gonna say, man, like how bad do you want this, Ethan? And also some pictures of your wife, that would help too. It can't all be dismissed as an old fogey mentality either, though it's tempting to condescend to hard-drinking scouts who fear reefer madness. I scouted for like a good 5 years, and every single scout I talked to, the common thing was, if you got a smoker, you got to worry about him passing tests. If you have a heavy drinker, you have someone whose career is going to deteriorate. Like,
I'll be
heavy drinking
honest.
was a much bigger red flag than
What
than
up,
a smoker.
Nitz? Travis Schlenk was worried about Clay smoking weed.
No, but like, that's you could be worried.
Aren't we
about
all?
Still are. You can worry about someone smoking weed,
Mm-hmm.
but to say that like the drinking was like, drinking's fine. Like, it's quite the opposite. Like, Fab Mello, may God rest his soul,
I think this is a bit
was
of
a
semantic
massive.
Okay.
Fab Mello was
think
like super duper nitro red flag because
Yeah.
he was an alcoholic. Like,
But Greg Oden was drafted number 1. But
Greg Oden's alcoholism was not known, and it was definitely exacerbated by him being depressed about being hurt. So like, and at Ohio State he drank, but it wasn't like out of control drinking. And then when he got to the league, that's when it happened.
I see where you're coming from on this, which is always a mistake because I feel like when you're debating with me, it's like being in the on, and I shouldn't even acknowledge your perspective. I should just go right at you. But I think what I'm trying to describe there is that a lot of people in the league back in the day, I think it's different now, but back in the day, if a guy got a charge for weed, they would say he's a stoner and sort of classify him as the smoker's version of an alcoholic, right? And I think that's more what I was saying, basically, that there's this idea that this guy is just he's on the weed versus if a guy parties and drinks and does the equivalent with booze, that's not really going to raise the same kind of red flag. But I agree with you. If a guy is completely just pickled alcoholic, that is a red flag for scouts. But would you not deny, that there was, more, I don't know what you want to call it, an old school mentality about dudes coming out of college who might have a charge for weed?
Oh yeah, there was reefer madness definitely was a thing, but I know at least by the 2000s the bigger issue was because like I'll give you an example. Lamar Odom had 2 strikes within his first 6 months in the NBA, and then never caught the 3rd strike. Like he was living 1 strike away from long-term ban. But he managed to it's not ideal, but you can get around it. Whereas the alcoholism, it's a lot harder to keep in check because there is no testing for alcohol.
The grand irony is that Jade just texted me that I should read a passage to end on, and I just responded without any hint of irony, except I realized retrospectively I said too drunk. That was my response to him right there. So,
all right, there you go.
For me, it was difficult to see how KD would matter in real terms, much as I missed feeling more casual when entering the locker room. As uncomfortable as KD's press conference tirade was, it only made me more famous, insofar as I even am. His hatred was commodifiable, not that I asked for it. His forgiveness might have uses, but it was never necessary for getting an exclusive window into the world. The man was such an open wound, telling everyone everything all the time. This would have been a great passage to end the book on. Instead, you put it within the first 100 pages. That's basically said, thanks for all the sales, Katie.
I want to give a big thank you to everybody who showed up. The support does mean a lot, even if I'm uncomfortable receiving it and I don't know what to say a lot of the time, but it brings a lot of things full circle. It couldn't have happened without all of you guys, and I consider myself very lucky that I get to work in an industry with a lot of my friends. So that is what I'll end on. I want to thank anybody who ordered it, anybody who pre-ordered it, anybody who's going to read it. Thanks to everybody. It's really appreciated. What do you say to me? What's that shit-eating grin about? What is that?
I'm fortunate to work in the industry with plenty of friends who I will sell out down the river to sell a couple more books. I told you that Steve Nash thing in confidence. That wasn't that wasn't Republican.
The worst part is I don't even know what you're talking about.
It's in the book.
Yeah,
Yo,
you hear that,
man.
people? I have sold confidences in this book for you to be entertained by.
You got me scared to read this. I mean, I don't know if I wonder if I got burned.
I've ended friendships for you people. My loyalty is to you, the reader, not these guys. These are my fake friends. You the
Exactly.
reader. I love you. I'm sharing all the secrets with you. So with that in mind.
Yo, man, I want to thank Beckley Mason, Tom Haberstroh, Sam Amick, Tony Slater, Andy Liu, Sam Esfandiari, of course, obviously Amin El Hassan, Marcus Thompson, the first ladies of Count the Dings, Claire DeLune and Sarah the pharmacist. Man, obviously Ethan for writing an incredible book, being an incredible colleague and friend. I don't know which one I should have put first, but I've also been drinking Ethan. Amin El Hassan, Marcus Thompson. Did I just say that already?
Yeah, I
Jade
deserve
Hoy.
double shout outs though.
Jade Hoy for putting this whole entire freaking thing together. That incredible freaking trailer. Everything that you're doing all the time behind the scenes, man. Thank you to the people that came and
Hold the
tuned
book
in.
up, Ethan.
We set a freaking record for YouTube live listeners. I'm sure we're gonna do fucking amazing after this, and people are gonna watch this. Thank you everybody for tuning in. This was Count the Dings After Dark. I mean, that's not a book. That's your notepad. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys tomorrow. We out.
You